Holy shit, we are entering the wacky zone as the group stage of the last stage for the Budapest Major winds down. Today, we saw favorites advance into the playoffs with Vitality breezing past NAVI and MOUZ getting a surprising gritty win over the Falcons. We then had to say goodbye to teams like Pain, who fell to Bait, Imperial, who fell against Passion UA, and 3D Max, who got brazed out of the server by Faze. We ended the day with one of the most shocking results of the majors so far, with the Mongolz defeating G2 soundly in 2-0 fashion, meaning that going into tomorrow, the last 3 games of the group stage, one of the matchups for a playoff spot will be the Falcons taking on G2. Cousin on cousin crime coming your way tomorrow. Let's set the stage. If you guys have been enjoying this kind of content, you should be leaving a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me get the last few subs over the line to 10,000 before the end of the year. So if you haven't hit that button, do it! Also, if you're on mobile, hype the video because it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Refrag. Refrag is the #1 CS2 improvement platform, and one of the best parts about it is the coach feature. What it does is Refrag will automatically analyze your recent demos, and based on your strengths and weaknesses, coach will create custom training routines helping you fix those weaknesses. Sometimes the hardest part about improvement in Counter-Strike, or anything in life really, is having direction, and coach is a fantastic way to mix feedback with the tools to fix those issues. If you want to try Refrag for yourself, you can do so at the link in the description or the pinned comment below, and use my code LionHeartZ for a 15% discount off your subscription. So sign up today, and thank you to Refrag for sponsoring this video. Now, despite this being a 2-0 victory for Vitality over NAVI, it could not have been closer. In fact, I really think NAVI had more than a fair shot to win either of these maps and at least push us to a third. The first thing to be covered right at the top, Wonderful played one of his best matches that I've seen in quite a while. He was fucking electric across both maps. He had the most total op kills, he beat Zyro in the op head-to-head, though that should be qualified with the fact that Zyro won the overall head-to-head by 1 kill, 10-9. But still, in terms of the op v op matchup, Wonderful was in the lead. He had multiple great multi-kills, a couple of clutches. It was just nice to see him play with a little bit of swagger and some confidence. Dare I say some shades of Simple, which obviously he was supposed to step in for Simple's shoes when he originally came into the lineup, but has never really lived up to those expectations. But there have been flashes, and Wonderful for sure has been one of Navi's most consistent pieces in this recent run of form. It was nice to see him be not just consistent, but their best and most important piece, especially when we're talking about maps like Inferno and Train, which can be difficult to op on the T sides on. Anyways, Inferno initially started with Vitality firmly in the driver's seat. They won the pistol, but on a great force buy, Navi would win the second round. Vitality tried to force a late B take. Unfortunately, Navi were already over-rotated and stacked into the bomb site, and AlexF had 2 great shots with the 5-7, Makaze trades out Apex, and that leaves just Robs and Mezzi having to save their AKs for the next round, which was pivotal for stopping Navi from taking hold of the early game momentum, as Vitality would fire back and win the next round very confidently with a late A split with Robs entering, picking up 2 kills, Apex with a P250 cleanup behind him, and then Mezzi for a double kill in the post plant. Afterwards, Vitality would settle into a rhythm, winning the next 4 rounds straight. Now, Navi kept this competitive going into the second half with a late flurry on their ZT side. Notable amongst that is actually this Makaze 1v3 clutch. He had been in a similar clutch situation earlier in the half that I didn't really highlight because he lost it. This time he converted with ease. In all fairness, all 3 of the players he fought were extremely low health, so it would have been weird if he didn't get this one over the line, but it helped Navi keep this to a 7-5 first half, so it's really important nonetheless. So, what ultimately cost Navi the ability to win on this second half? Well, it comes down to one of Vitality's most enduring qualities, something we'll also be talking about on Train, and that's the fact that there are no free rounds against this team. Vitality will win ecos out of nowhere, and you must be wary of this risk at all times. So even though for the most part, Navi have been the better team in the second half, they won the pistol round, they converted the second round thereafter, they dropped a set of 3 rounds to Vitality, who had just won on a force buy, but then Wonderful came to life, and Navi would dominate 4 straight rounds, including this 1v3 clutch from Wonderful on the A bomb site. And this one was a bit of poetry, because it's going to come down into this late hit from Navi, and frankly, they're going to lose the gunfights. The trades from Vitality are simply stronger, stranding Wonderful in this 1v4 coming up lane in the middle of no man's land. He takes his first shot towards Zyro in the library. Clinical takes him out. Spins onto Mezzi in the short pit. Another shot, another kill. Spins back around onto Apex at the top of Arch. Takes his ass down. And now Flamesy's rotating in from B, wondering what the fuck just happened. Wonderful gets the bomb down in the back of the bomb site. Squeaks back out to lane through his own smoke. Gets the intel that Flamesy's coming through Arch and Moto when he throws a Molotov. Then Flamesy, I think, does this round really well. The only thing is he gets caught on a poor timing as he's jumping over to the bitch box with the smoke thrown. And frankly, had he not dropped that smoke, he probably just wins this fight straight up because Wonderful misses the op shot, has time to dive into the smoke, pull out his Tech 9, and then fight on the edge of it as Flamesy's spraying into it with the M4, allowing Wonderful to seal the deal. Had that smoke not been thrown, he's dead. And now you've got Vitality in this terrible position where their econ's not really great, but they also want to defend against match point, so they're forced to rebuy into this round quite heavily. Zyro spent everything to get that off. You got Apex on a Mag 7, 2 5.7s, and just one M4. This should be a round where NAVI are looking to just take this map cleanly right now. But, like we said, and apologies for the dogs in the background, there are no free rounds against Vitality. So what's going to happen here is we're going to work out map control for like a minute and a half, and then sub 40 seconds, NAVI are going to creep their way up to A. Oh, there's Robs in the apartments with the 5.7 getting an unassisted pick onto Wonderful before getting traded out. And then guess what? There's Apex right there with the Mag 7 taking out a chipped Imma. And then guess what? Mezzi gets a free intel pick through the library smoke, and then Apex gets his second Mag 7 kill of the round onto Bit. Bit does not need to peek him here. I don't really know what he's doing. This is definitely an over-aggress from Bit. And then all of a sudden, you have Mikaze with 20 health, trapped in the A bomb site. Oh my god, what went wrong? And simply put, those kinds of bullshit low econ wins are oftentimes the nail in the coffin in many Vitality's classic wins throughout the year, and such was the case here. They close out the map, 3 straight wins, they take the 1-0 series lead. NAVI had a chance to kill off Vitality, but fall just 2 Mag 7 picks short. Now moving into Train, NAVI gets my full and unabashed praise for this first half T-side. This was an incredible T-side effort out of them, taking 6 rounds on Train against any team with how CT-sided it is remarkable, and the fact they did it into Vitality, winning so many consecutive gun rounds is fucking damn impressive. And once again, Wonderful at the forefront of that, breaks open their first round win with a huge triple kill. But even after that, what really stood out to me, what was really impressive, was Navi's approach to the A side, because at least in this version of Train, a lot of teams just stay away from Ivy. It's usually used for only like gimmick plays or very late splits, but Navi seem to have a deliberate game plan that a lot of their A plays were going to come from Ivy pressure combined with late hits out of Pop Dog or A main, and honestly they were more successful than they weren't. Now of course there were still Zywo moments to contend with, but the fact that we're entering Navi's CT side tied up 6-6 is really remarkable. But ultimately, what would cost Navi in this series is exactly what cost them on Inferno, and that's those fucking goddamn eco rounds out of Astralis. Additionally, it looked like Navi were going to come from behind and win this map outright. They won an eco of their own right after Vitality got to match point. Vitality tried to crunch it on the first round they could finish the series, pushing into A, and Navi just wiped them out. It was only MP9s, a FAMAS, like it was as low as a buy as you could ask for out of Navi, and AlexF comes up clutch with a double, everyone gets their trades on the yard, they get through the round with 4 live. And then Navi followed it up with a strong B defense into a Vitality push, Bit and Imma on the front of the bomb side taking trades apiece, Mikaze on the rotate to support, comes out as just Mezzi in a ridiculous 1v4 clutch so he can't get over the line, and now Vitality's money is broken and we're going into the last round of regulation. This should be guaranteed overtime. Vitality, eco, bullshit. Robs coming out of Pop Dog with the Tech 9 takes 3 kills in the middle of A yard. And just like the snap of the fingers, the series is over. And that sucks for Navi because you guys were close. This could have gone overtime, third map, who knows what happens. Instead, Vitality, they get through 3-1. Still very clearly one of the strongest teams in the playoffs, but this Vitality is vulnerable, as we've seen. Navi, they have to fall into the last day's bracket tomorrow where they're going to take on Bait. And honestly, they should be winning that. I would be really disappointed if Navi didn't. Alright, I'm shifting gears into podcast mode. Bear with me here. We have Bait taking on Pain next. Elimination game. Bait walk away with a 2-0 victory that frankly is more like a 3-map victory because we went double overtime on Dust 2 19-16 and then overtime on Ancient 16-12. For Pain, this is definitely not the result they would have liked to exit stage 3 like this after making playoffs at the Austin Major. Had so many struggles over the year. Bubblesj had a great interview afterwards where he talked about how like this result's unacceptable. This is not the Counter-Strike we like to play. You know, I am obviously a big Pain fan. I've been a big Pain defender for a while now. And I really do think the next step for Pain, or the next step for Bubblesj, frankly, is to find a way to get with Insani. These two have to play together at some point. It's clear that MIBR isn't fucking working out. Like, it's time. If Pain want to be a legit top 10 team in the world, if Pain want to win trophies, I don't care what Insani is worth. You need to pay that money. Now, there is one silver lining, and that's that Insani's contract with MIBR is supposedly up either at the end of this year or like the early part of 2026. So there is now a window where this trade is realistic. And if Pain, again, want to be legit and win trophies, they need to pursue Insani. He is the most straightforward, best move you can make. He's one of the best players in Brazil. Get this man out of ELO hell and get him next to Bubblesj. Anyways, on Dust 2, this was KenSizor and NQZ going blow for blow. Both of them would drop 28 kills and 22 and 23 deaths respectively, though KenSizor pulls away with the overall better rating, I presume, because of how well he did in opening duels. Going 9-3 for the entire match is crazy good efficiency on opening duels, and that gave Bait just a ton of opportunities where they can go into rounds with a man advantage. Also, Bait remained very clutch in this game as well as this series. They won 3 clutches to Pain's just 1. The other thing to note is that Snow had a rotten first map. He ends with 14 kills and a disastrous 0.66 rating. Unfortunately, this experiment of giving Snow a lot more star locations and star resources really hasn't panned out. He still remains every bit as inconsistent as he has been pretty much his entire tenure on this Pain Gaming roster. And unfortunately on Ancient, it felt like it was just Bubblesj and DGT against the world. The team play from Bait remained really strong. KenSizor top fragged once again with 24 kills this time, but Bubblesj put up 28 kills himself with a 1.41 rating, DGT with 24. The next closest person was NQZ with 17 and 20, and then a precipitous drop-off with Snow and Devvrat getting 13 and 11 kills respectively. And Devvrat is one of the linchpins of this roster. He's supposed to be here as one of the primary star riflers, and him going missing was just really unfortunate to watch play out. So Bait, they stay alive for the last day. They have NAVI ahead of them. Listen, I think people are going to call this controversial. Bait are definitely the underdogs in that matchup, but that doesn't mean they can't win it. Bait are an incredible team in their own right. I'm personally not as high on them as many others, and I like this NAVI roster better. But Bait are one thing, and this is undeniable, is that they are scrappy and they are hard to kill. I would not be surprised if Bait managed to make that series not only close, but frankly, they have a fair shot to win it themselves. I think it'll be really pivotal for MPL to step up in that game. It feels like he hasn't had many great matches so far in Stage 3, and he needs to be the guy at the front. We then had North America staying alive at the Major as Passion UA took out Imperial 2-0 to avoid elimination. It was 13-8 on Inferno, 13-10 on Dust 2. Once again, Passion UA, I really think they're one of the more entertaining teams in this stage. I put them 0-3 just off the back of the fact that while they are entertaining, they were one of the weaker teams in this field. Unfortunately, no one could legislate for how fucking shit Team Liquid were, huh? And the coolest part is that this isn't just Grim or Halzer doing a carry job. No, the best player on Passion UA is fucking JT. They're IGL. And I knew JT was on fire this stage. I hadn't taken a sec and just double checked the numbers. Guys, JT is the 7th highest rated player in this stage of the Major. He has a 1.27 rating over more maps than most of the players above him. Dude, he's not far off Shiro, Robson, ZywOo. Like, this is actually fucking nuts. And he top frags for this series, going 40 and 30 with a 1.57 rating. Their fucking IGL is doing this. That's actually insane. It's borderline like unheard of in the modern context. Even when we talk about Blitz as a fragging IGL, you ain't putting up numbers like this. And not to belabor the point, because we still have a lot of games to get past, really what burnt Imperial at the end was everyone else not being able to keep up with Try. Try remained remarkable throughout this series. He goes 43 and 30 across both maps, a 1.34 rating, 100 ADR. The next closest player behind him is No Way, who put up 31 and 31 and a 0.93. As is becoming a mainstay at the recent majors, Imperial were the Brazil team that came out of nowhere and shocked everybody by going on a run from the first stage all the way to the third. So there's definitely a lot to have enjoyed with Imperial's run here. They fucked my pick'ems a couple times, so shout out to that. Try looks incredible as an opper. I have no idea what's next for Imperial or if they'll be able to turn the corner like Legacy did, but fuck, you guys had a damn fine major. Exiting here top 16, that's really not that big of a deal. We then had the other marquee matchup of the day, MOUZ versus Falcons. Playoff advancement on the line. MOUZ having lost the 4 previous matchups this year against this Falcons core, hunting for that win on home soil for Torji. And MOUZ, they pull it off in 3 games. This series was, in some respects, very close. In others, it felt like MOUZ were playing definitively better Counter-Strike. What's really interesting is that I think we saw the weaknesses of both these teams at several different points. On Mirage, for example, you had MOUZ starting off on a dynamic, strong CT side start, where, you know, they won the first 7 of 8 rounds. They really kept Falcons in a box. They were limiting m0NESY's impact. Meanwhile, Xerxes and Torji were really on a tear. m0NESY is a weird one for this entire series because you look at the stats, if you didn't catch this game, you would come away thinking that m0NESY played good. He top frags for Falcons, scoreline looks okay, but in all 3 of these games, I felt like m0NESY's impact was very hit and miss. Really, the big thing that helped m0NESY was he had just a handful of massively important multi-kills. Like on Mirage, for example, he had one 1v3 clutch on the T side, which was very impactful. He had another 4K later on the CT side. Through most of the second half, he only had around 10 kills, so those 2 rounds represented a large majority of his output for the entire game. There were many rounds in a row where he wasn't getting much of anything done, and that was a trend that would continue through the series. So I still don't really feel like m0NESY has arrived compared to what we saw in the previous few tournaments leading up to the major, and that's starting to get really concerning because now, you know, fast forward, they lose the series to MOUZ. They have the last chance game tomorrow against G2, and while G2 are struggling in their own right, there's a lot of baggage in that matchup, and m0NESY needs to dominate. Anyways, circling back to Mirage, MOUZ were firmly in the driver's seat. They had this game, this first map, in the palm of their hands. They're up 11-5. They won both the pistol rounds. They were doing real well on the start of their T side, but they hit a brick wall. And that brick wall, where out of nowhere, Falcons just flipped a switch and started hitting every fucking shot they could have. TSS popped off. m0NESY had that huge 4K. It's a good sporadic impact afterwards. Kioske came up big. So did Nico. Like, really, the only piece that wasn't doing well was Kicksan. But Kicksan's calling and his rotates, especially outside of the timeouts, were really strong. This really was a just classic T-side failure out of MOUZ, where once again, we have this moment where Xerxes and Brolin can't get openers to save their lives. So you have a position where MOUZ are playing from behind in a lot of these rounds in 4v5s. They just struggle to take map control, and their executes fall apart really easily. It's just quintessentially everything I hate about MOUZ on the T sides, where they're so reliant on Brolin or Xerxes to break open rounds that it feels like they have no backup plan. The mid-rounding is just non-existent. So Mirage falls apart, and I feel like at that point when I'm watching the game, that Falcons are going to find a way to win this, MOUZ are going to slink away into the lower bracket, and who knows what the fuck's going to happen tomorrow. But MOUZ were extremely resilient, and the one thing that's going to become a problem for Falcons going forward is that Kioske just can't play Inferno. It's his worst map on this team by far, and he's routinely awful on it. With the benefit of getting their T-side out of the way first, MOUZ, they stormed through Inferno with a 13-6 win. Kioske just has a disastrous game, one of his very worst since he's joined the Falcons. 5-15 with a 0.35 rating. Kicksan, not much better. Neither is Nico. m0NESY, just kind of ho-hum at 14-14. TSS got tried a bunch on the CT side and held up real well. But outside of those brief CT moments and a great clutch out of m0NESY, there was nothing working for Falcons here. And I really don't know what the solution is. They've bounced around with Kioske playing both on A and B, but nothing seems to settle down for him. And the byproduct of that that's even worse is that it bounces around Nico's positioning because they've given deference over to Kioske as a star player, whereas Nico traditionally would be one of the B anchors, and he's done it quite well, one of the best B CT side players in Inferno history. But now he's in flux getting moved around, and Kioske, when he's playing B, just doesn't look comfortable or good on it. Inferno is a real red glaring problem for Falcons. They should be more competitive in this match against MOUZ here, but they got fucking blasted. Nuke ends up being a very weird decider for this series because on one hand, I was really worried about the fact that MOUZ started on CT side because it meant no matter how well they did, they would have to close on their honestly weaker T sides. At the same time, I didn't expect Falcons to be this bad on their own T sides. Nico had a wretched final map. going 5 and 10 on the T side. He went 0 for 2 on his entries in that time frame. And that left us in a position where the only success Falcons were finding were off the back of Kioske and Munisi. All told, MOUZ would knuckle down for an 8-4 opening CT half. Now at the time I was kind of walking back and forth doing some stuff around the house, and I tweeted out, because this is just my honest bias as a MOUZ hater, that despite this 8-4 half, I was pretty convinced that MOUZ were going to find a way to lose this, because this T side is just so rocky. If Falcons can snag a pistol round or an anti-eco win early, they can start running up momentum. And in a lot of ways, that happened, because MOUZ, they convert the pistol round, which by the way, hasn't brought up yet in the series. MOUZ goes 6 for 6 in pistols across all 3 maps, which is remarkable. But both on the first and second half in this game on Nuke, Falcons would win the second round force buy. The difference between the first half and the second half, Falcons didn't throw it away on the round thereafter. So MOUZ ended up on the back foot early. And when Kioske gets that incredible, almost instantaneous ace on the ramp room on round 15, it feels like we're on for Falcons to make this comeback happen. The thing I could not legislate for, and the thing that I'm really impressed with by MOUZ to close out this game, is that MOUZ won 2 pivotal force buys. And I gotta say, they took advantage of the fact that Falcons got rattled by how these rounds played out. The first one, it's 9-11 on the scoreboard. Not even gonna touch that one with a 10-foot pole with the Saudi Arabian team. Anyways, what's gonna happen here is MOUZ are gonna go hard into ramp with Brolin at the helm and one of the few AKs they have bought up. Kioske is gonna take a spam into the smoke before the push begins, and unfortunately with the A1S, that strands him without enough ammo to make this fight. Brolin takes his head off, they see 4 players take ramp instantly. What happens is, Nico instantly goes down vents, the instantaneous rotate downstairs from Falcons comes in, but in the chaos of what's going on, what's not heard is Zershin going through Squeaky Door and down vents right behind Nico, where he gets a free Tech 9 shot into the back of the head. They were so rushed on the rotate, the comms were so loud that there was no room to understand what Zershin just did. And with the backstab to really reaffirm the pinch into the B site, the Falcons get blown up in fucking seconds for MOUZ to find match point and series point. An incredible aggressive round out of MOUZ, I have to say. Normally their aggression gets stopped so often on the T sides, but this was picture perfect out of Brolin. Now the crazy part is the very next round, Falcons fire back with this great Muncie hold on ramp where he picks up this triple kill, foiling the split through secret into ramp. I think MOUZ opted to play too fast in this round. They really wanted to push the advantage and try and catch Falcons on their back foot, but they just walked into Muncie's scope far too much, and far too much room to work. So once again, MOUZ's economy gets broken, and now you're running out of chances. It's 10-12. Your economy is going to be torched for the rest of regulation. It looks like overtime is on the cards. But after winning that first eco after a Cyclone timeout, they used their last timeout of the game one more time, and the call out of spawn is to work that fast outside once again, and it's utter chaos out the gate. The smoke wall comes through, you have players flying off a roof at Nico behind the blue box. Nico takes a pick before getting traded out. Once the chaos settles, we find ourselves in a 3v3, and MOUZ, they stomp dead, they freeze. They leave Torji out by credit card. Brolin takes the bomb and rotates all the way around back into lobby, walking the entire time, and forces Falcons to think about what the fuck is happening. Once Muncie gets a spot on Torji outside, he drops down to the bomb site. With Tessa shifting into hut, Muncie smokes Squeaky Door as he does so. And this was just a brilliant call from MOUZ. They step right through that Squeaky Door smoke, they walk right out into sight. Muncie has no idea the players are doing that. The pinch is coming in from heaven at the same time, and Jimmy with the Gleal executes Muncie, takes out Tessas, and all that's left is Kioske rotating from the lower bomb site into a 1v3 he cannot convert. Those eco rounds were brilliant out of MOUZ, and they sniped this victory right out of Falcons' hands, which means that the Falcons, they have to fall to the final day where once again they're playing G2, Hunter and Nico, Kovac on Kovac crime. Only one Kovac shall remain. Which one of them gets to go to the playoffs? Hunter or Nico, Falcons or G2? A fucking grudge match if I've ever seen one. MOUZ, they're into playoffs. I still don't really like this team, but there's no doubting how fucking good they are. Congrats to them and Torji especially for getting to do it on home soil. I'm excited to see how much the crowd cheers him on next week in the playoffs. And after that intense series, I was worried that I would have to fucking suffer through a Faze disaster class against 3D Max. But dude, this is one of Faze's like most dominant best of 3 wins in God knows how long. They bitched 3D Max out of the server. It was 13-6 on Dust 2, 13-5 on Inferno. There was no problem. This game was over so fucking quick. Jacob was fucking incredible. Jacob is like the best pistol player in the world right now. I believe B-Trams did the numbers on this, and he has the best overall pistol rating in the last like 3 months. He is just, he's embodying Snax. Who would have thought a Polish player being goated on the pistol rounds? But dude, his CT pistols are fucking insane. He had multiple insane pistol rounds in this game, even though it was only 2 maps. Like, fuck, man. Jacob is just insane right now. He goes 34 and 17 for the series. But the great part is, everybody on Faze played good. For once, I have no criticisms. I can't even be mad at Brokey. Brokey went 30 and 14. Twist, 30 and 18. Frozen, 30 and 22. I can't be mad about this. For once, there was a Faze series that was easy, straight to the point, no bullshit, no shenanigans, no random overtimes, no unlosable rounds, no missing easy shots from Brokey. They just took care of work. 3D Max, they just didn't bring it today. Once again, it was body and nobody else backing them up. I have no idea what's next for 3D Max, but they had a lot of good moments this season and a lot of bad moments. And listen, Faze up, boys. We got one more game tomorrow, Passion UA. Hopefully, God, if they lose the Passion UA, I'm going to be sad. And as we already laid the groundwork for earlier, G2 lost to the Mongolz shockingly 2-0. It was 13-4 on Ancient. It was 13-6 on Dust 2. I am shocked at how uncompetitive G2 made this series. Obviously, I am not the biggest Control S fan, and that's mainly because I really like Senzu and I wish he was still fucking in this team. But honestly, G2 should be beating this team. Like, they're playing with a temporary player. Like, G2 should not be getting bitched out by this Mongolz team. And yes, the Mongolz team still has incredible players behind it. You still have 9-10. You get moments out of Mazinho, like in the series. Techno as well. Blitz is incredible in the clutch. I don't deny that the Mongolz are still like 85-90% of what they were. But Senzu is an important piece of that puzzle. And losing that should make them worse. And in some respects, they have been worse. But G2, they played awful. Maddie's was nowhere to be seen. Neither was MOUZ. Son Pius was bad. Heavy God was their only player to even get close to positive. He went 29 and 29 over both maps. This series ends with a Blitz 1v3 clutch. Wait, sorry. It was a 1v2 clutch. He had a 1v3 clutch just a few rounds earlier. Like, that's where we're at. So going into tomorrow for G2, who the fuck knows? I literally have no idea what to expect. But I like G2, so I hope they at least put up a good game against the Falcons. And then the Mongolz, they made playoffs without Senzu. That's super commendable. Blitz and Mara just run an efficient fucking system. Moses made this point, but if it wasn't for the fact that Vitality had, you know, an era in the first half of this year, I really think Mara should get a huge nod for being coach of the year. Like, what he's done with this core players from an unproven region, back-to-back-to-back major playoff appearances, that's fucking insane. And they run a tight ship. And I guess that means that Senzu isn't required, which makes me sad. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed this content, you should be leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me in 10K subs by the end of the year. Also, hype the video if you're on mobile. Thank you to Refrag for sponsoring this video. It's the #1 way to improve your CS2 game. I use it all the time. You get a Refrag subscription. You can use my code LionHeartZ for 15% off. Thank you to Refrag for sponsoring this video. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I'm Flashbangs, Know Me Right, Rowdy, LBK, Snax Enjoyer, Crunchy Water, Zerotwocs, drudenae, chron, Gano, Zyro, Devvrat Singh, Clyde Mead, ZSabre, and AlexF. If you want to become a channel member, do so. Links are down below for $5 a month. You can continue videos just like this. Well, it's custom community Discord. Bada bing, bada boom, bye.